people who have given us problems for over centuries now are dead. They're gone. It gives you right now to land. Gives you rights to the land. They needed to do that to disrupt the fabric of the Native American population and also to encompass the land that they was trying to colonize. So after the Yamasee War, they had to have the Lord proprietors feel comfortable about their investments,
right?
Coming from England and sending over their indentured
right.
Servants
right.
to come here and then colonize the land.
Right.
It's sort of hard to say, I want you to invest in something in this new world, and you're saying we have to worry about the savages,
right.
about those savages, that just killed 400, Charleston people and killed, massacred all of our people.
Right.
Well, the best way to do that was to write us out. The Europeans have a saying that says, the pen is mightier than the sword.
That's correct.
And in this instant, it was.
Right.
Our people never had to need or want to write or read their documentation.
Right.
We never cared about how they seen us.
Right.
Our whole purpose was for survival.
That's right.
We cared about our children,
That's
our
right.
grandmothers, the same thing we are now.
Exactly.
And the whole writing us out was just that. But anyone that takes the time out, without being ignorant,
right.
you actually take the time out and say, hey, how did these people become extinct when you identifying them as Seminoles?
Right.
Or you identifying them as Mikosuki?
Right.
Or you identifying them as Yamasee Seminoles, or all the different names they give us. How is that an extinct race?
Right.
How do you say these people no longer exist when you say these other tribesmen married into their women and had babies by their women, when every tribe in the Southeast had a matrilineal society?
Right.
So that meant that if you had a baby from a woman and she was of the Yamasee, then that baby was Yamasee.
That's right.
And so they have these things documented on Seminole records.
Right.
They have these things documented amongst the Mikosuki.
Right.
They have it documented amongst the Creeks. So, when you say that, again, the extinction, people that have a purpose will look past that.
Right.
People who have a purpose will say, oh, well, they're all African, or they're African American.
Right.
Well, no, we're not. We happen to be dark-skinned people, and actually, we're not even black. We're red-skinned. We're red-skinned.
We're red-skinned. Exactly.
They say copper tone.
Exactly. It's redskins.
It's redskins.
Right. And hence the big debate with the Washington Redskins. Some look at it as being offensive. Some look at it as being derogatory. But what most people don't know is prior to the British,
this march.
Immigrating to Virginia and Washington, who were there? The Redskins.
The Redskins, and that's exactly right. It is so pivotal that people really understand the literal meaning of things.
Exactly.
And what I mean by that is, when people see dark-skinned Indians, and we're going to see some cousins, the Mikosuki.
Yes.
Today, we're going down to Miami to see Leroy Osio,
yes.
the traditional Mikosuki.
Yes.
When you see their ancestors, which are our ancestors,
yes.
you look at us. You're looking at mirror images of us.
Right.
And so that is important, because when you see modern day Mikosuki who have bred out a little bit,
right.
or are breeding out gradually,
right.
and they become lighter and lighter in skin,
right.
those with the truth will say, well, this is coming from the raping of our women,
right.
the raping of our children, and their skin tone gets lighter.
Right.
And I say that because, it's so... It becomes so controversial when people see people of our skin tone
who are lighter, or darker.
Who are darker.
Exactly.
And they say, oh, they're Africans. That is like saying all of the lighter versions of Native Americans in the West are Mexicans.
Exactly.
They get called that.
Sure.
They get called that.
It's ignorance.
It is ignorance.
It's sheer ignorance.
It's pure ignorance at its best.
Right.
And it's also a form of racism, because it's a competition.
Right.
What is it that you don't want the dark-skinned Indians to achieve?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And you're perpetuating the same type of mentality, ignorance that your ancestors have were part to, that they had subjected themselves through, and which what they were fighting about. You're doing the same thing, and then we won't do, as Native Americans, we won't say, well, brother, you're lighter than myself, and science has proven you're a Mongoloid. Your ancestry is a Mongoloid, that you come from Siberia.
Right.
We won't do that, so we don't have to play that game.
That's right.
What we do is we embrace all people, but we ask that you truly get an understanding of Native American history, Native American documentation. There's nothing that we wrote about us.
Right.
Go back to, if you believe in the white man, then go back to his documentation and look at what he says, because it only seems that our people believe what he says.
Right.
So it's documented who we are. It's documented what we've done. It's documented where we were.
Right.
And when they couldn't no longer document, they put census records.
That's right.
They started putting the census to find out where we were.
Where we were. Where are you?
And then they wrote down Negro.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I asked everybody, where was a Negro on the continent? Name the country Negro.
There is no country. Actually, it was a Spanish term for black.
Plain and simple.
So we were in Spain.
Plain and simple. But you had a question, I apologize.
No, what I was going to say is my cameraman, Jorge Rivera, had two questions. And one question was, would you speak something in Yamasee? Would you say something in Yamasee for non-native speaking people?
Ani Miki, Siko Halam Hachto Lama Yamasi, Hajo, Ani Miki B, Ayati Yamasi, Ani Fusi, Erepaka Hacho, Ska Mikosugi, Uni Yamasi, Unke, Chinabi's Chi, to you, your cameraman, to the people. A rough translation is I am Siku Hiranigo, Yamasi, of the chief, Arapaka Hajo. Sam Jones is what he's known, and he lived in Mikosuki, Florida.
Yes.
Our people still exist,
Yes.
and we thank you for allowing us the opportunity to be able to speak and clarify some records.
Truthfully.
Truthfully, thank you.
And the second question that he has is, how do you think DNA testing has brought about, I hate using the word evolution, but I will, brought about the evolution of people actually knowing who they are and where they're from?
You know, I'm not clear, man. It hasn't. DNA testing will say that somebody was back in the 1700s and they drew blood from a native, and now they have blood that they can compare it to. That's not true. What they say is DNA testing allows us to know that your ancestors have been on this portion of the continent for so long because of genetic markers, because of the plants that here, the air that you breathe, because of this particular part of the continent's environmental makeup. Okay, so they can trace where your people were versus where they were not. But the problem becomes with that, they've traced markers with everyone that says at one point in time we're all linked into what they call a African woman called Lululemon. Every human being has the same genetic trait in makeup. Every human being can be traced back to one part of this world. And those are markers like the tree, our brothers and sisters of the trees. When you go inside of a tree, they have rings. And the rings
right.
can tell you how long that tree
Exactly.
has lived and what it has endured. They can literally tell you if that tree encompassed a storm and what damage it did to it.
Right.
You know, they can tell you if smokestacks was around it and it had, you know, the carbon within the tree, you know, absorbed so much smokestack. So they can say, oh, at this particular time, this tree was around a fire. They're doing that now with DNA. And what they found within DNA is there is no genetic marker or makeup that says that you're Indian. There is no genetic marker that says you're Native American. All they can say is your people have been here for so long that you have people that were here because of their genetic marker or their genetic makeup.
That makes sense. Well, thank you, cousin.
Thank you. Should I be